Grant put his palm against the glass door before I could reach the handle. Behind him, nearly 200 people drifted beneath the lights of the Halcyon Conservatory, drinking champagne at our lavish 15th-anniversary gala. My husband's mother stood beside the framed guest list in a silver gown, watching me through the glass. "You need to use the service entrance," Grant said. I stared at him. "Excuse me?" "The photographer's set up here. Mom and I are about to go in." Evelyn laughed beside my name on the guest list. "You've been working with the vendors all day, Mara. You're practically staff." Grant lowered his voice. "Please don't make this embarrassing." He pointed around the building. I was still standing there when Lena Ortiz, the venue manager, came through the lobby. Her eyes dropped to the badge hanging from the green ribbon around my neck. She opened the door, checked it, then looked at Grant. "This badge says host." "Yes," I said, "it does." Lena pulled the door wide. Then the host walks in. Grant stepped aside. As I passed him, I caught the smell of his aftershave, the one I had bought him for our anniversary, and wondered when, exactly, my husband had started needing me to disappear so he could look important. 6 weeks earlier, I had been standing barefoot in our kitchen, tying another green ribbon around another key. The ribbon came from a spool in the junk drawer. It lived beside 2 dead batteries, a wine opener shaped like a fish, and the tiny screwdriver Grant always accused me of moving. I cut a length with poultry shears because our good scissors were, as usual, missing. "You're going to ruin those," Grant said. He was leaning against the island with his tie loosened, eating cold chicken directly from the takeout container. "They'll survive." "That's what you said about the screwdriver. I have never expressed an opinion about the screwdriver. You said it had gone to a better place. It had. My desk." He smiled and offered me a piece of chicken with his fork. I took it because this was how most of our arguments ended then, with one of us feeding the other something over the kitchen island. The key was for the new lock on the cabinet in my workroom. The old lock had jammed twice, and the cabinet held vendor contracts, tax folders, and 3 external drives containing enough information to ruin my month if they disappeared. I tied the ribbon in a square knot and tested it with a tug. Grant watched me. "Same green?" "Always." In our first apartment, we had owned 1 spare key and no reliable place to keep it. I tied it to a strip torn from the green lining of an old skirt so we could spot it in the kitchen drawer. The ribbon outlasted the apartment, the skirt 2 moves, and Grant's brief conviction that keys should be organized by size instead of purpose. Somewhere along the way, green became ours. Green tags on the storage bins, green tape on the breaker labels I wrote, green ribbons on the house keys, the shed key, the spare for Grant's office. Home, reduced to a color. My phone vibrated across the counter. Evelyn flashed on the screen. Grant made a small, sympathetic sound and took another bite. "You answer it," I said. "She called you. She gave birth to you. And she likes you better." The phone stopped, then immediately began again. I answered. "Hi, Evelyn." "Mara, sweetheart, I have an emergency." Evelyn's emergencies had included a blinking router, a caterer who used square plates, and a dry cleaner who had apparently become hostile by closing at the time printed on its door. "What happened?" "The sconces are wrong." Grant closed his eyes. I put her on speaker. "Which sconces?" "The ones in the front hall. The brass is too yellow. It looks cheap." "You approved them last Tuesday." "I approved them in daylight. It's evening now." I looked out the kitchen windows. The sky was still bright over our backyard. "Evelyn, I can call the contractor tomorrow. He says there's a restocking fee. Because you approved them." I don't understand why everyone keeps saying that like it's helpful. Grant reached for my phone. I pulled it away and gave him a look. Evelyn continued, "Your father-in-law never would have let contractors speak to me this way. Walter had been dead for 4 years and remained extremely busy. According to Evelyn, he would have chosen better lighting, negotiated lower prices, remembered birthdays without reminders, and known instinctively when a tablecloth was too beige." "I'll talk to the contractor tomorrow," I said. "You're an angel. Grant, are you there?" He swallowed before answering. No. She laughed. I can hear you chewing. I'll stop. Don't forget Saturday, I'm bringing the anniversary list. After we hung up, I turned to him. What anniversary list? He examined the chicken as if it might contain instructions. Grant. Mom's been thinking. That has never ended with fewer errands for me. He took the fork from the container and set it carefully on the lid. She wants to do something for our 15th. We're doing something. Charleston. 4 days. No phones unless something catches fire. She thinks we should have a party. Your mother thinks breakfast should have a dress code. A dinner, then. 50 people. 50? 40. You began negotiating with yourself too early. He came around the island and put his hands on my waist. He had a talent for becoming warm and boyish exactly when I wanted to stay annoyed with him. It could be nice, he said. You like the Halcyon. I like attending things at the Halcyon. I do not want to organize my own anniversary. You wouldn't have to. We both looked at my phone. Don't, I said. I didn't say anything. You made a face. It was a hopeful face. It was the face you made when you said your company Christmas dinner would be 12 people and pizza. It was 14 people. It was 38 people and a raw bar. He kissed my forehead. We'll keep it small. What about Charleston? We can still go. I knew we would not still go. I also knew that if I said no too quickly, Evelyn would treat the refusal like a diagnosis. Mara is overwhelmed. Mara has become antisocial. Mara doesn't understand how much these occasions mean now that Walter is gone. Grant must have seen something move across my face because his grip softened. It matters to her, he said. 15 years. Dad was at our wedding. She's feeling it. There it was, Walter, reaching into our kitchen to tip the scale. I touched the green ribbon on the cabinet key. 50 people. 50. You communicate with your mother. Absolutely. You approve the invitations. Done. You chase responses. I love chasing responses. You don't know what an RSVP is. I know it's French for Mara handles it. I laughed despite myself, and he kissed me as if laughter were consent. By Saturday, Evelyn's list had 86 names. She arrived carrying a leather portfolio, 3 fabric swatches, and a framed photograph from our wedding. In the picture, Grant was trying not to cry while I slid a ring onto his finger. Walter stood behind him with one hand on his shoulder. Evelyn had positioned herself close enough to appear to be officiating. I thought we could display this at the entrance, she said. She set it on our dining table, directly on top of a stack of Mercer Custom Homes invoices I was sorting. Coaster, I told Grant. He slipped a magazine under the frame. Evelyn ignored us and opened her portfolio. I added a few people who would be hurt not to be included. Are we related to the Korean trade delegation? I asked. They're from the cabinet company. There are 9 of them. They travel as a group. Grant rubbed his mouth, hiding a smile. I turned another page. You invited the Talbots. They adore Grant. They sued Grant. They sued the company. Socially, they're lovely. The party grew while I watched. Evelyn wanted clients because they had become friends, suppliers because they had become partners, and neighbors because they had watched the Mercer family rebuild after loss. Each argument sounded almost reasonable by itself. Together, they became 200 people. Grant let her expand it 1 careful inch at a time. When I objected to the budget, he said the company would sponsor part of the evening. When I objected to mixing our marriage with his business, he said everyone already thought of us as a team. When I asked who would manage the event, he touched my hand and said, "We'll hire people." We hired people. Then Evelyn called them until they stopped answering her and called me instead. The Halcyon contract arrived on a Tuesday morning. Lena had included a note beneath the signature line. 1 designated host must retain final authority for schedule, vendor access, and on-site changes. Grant was at a job site. Evelyn was at war with the florist over white roses. I called Grant twice before signing my name. When I told him, he sounded relieved. "You're better at that stuff anyway." "What stuff?" "Details, keeping people from losing their minds. Your mother has accused the florist of disrespecting spring." "She respects your judgment." "She respects my willingness to clean up after her judgment." Grant went quiet. A saw whined behind him. Someone shouted his name. "I have to go," he said. "Thank you for handling it." The event deposit came from our household account because the company sponsorship had not cleared. Grant promised to move the money by Friday. Friday became the end of the month. The end of the month became when the Hawthorne payment lands. I covered the second deposit from my consulting account. That was not unusual enough to frighten me. What frightened me happened on a Monday evening when I came home early from a canceled walkthrough and found the door to my workroom open. At first I thought we had been robbed. The standing desk was gone. So was the bookcase, my sample shelves, and the old green chair where I took difficult calls. In their place stood 6 gray archive boxes, a mahogany desk too large for the room, and a pair of Walter's framed architectural drawings. His brass desk lamp occupied the spot where my computer had been. Evelyn came in carrying another box. "Oh," she said, "you're early." I looked past her. "Where is my furniture?" "In the garage. Grant said we could put most of it in storage." For a moment, every sound in the house separated itself. The refrigerator motor, the air conditioning vent, the click of Evelyn's bracelet against the cardboard box. Grant said what? He agreed this room makes sense for the archive. The light is much better than at my house, and the company needs a proper place to preserve Walter's work. "This is my office. You have a laptop." I stared at her. She gave me the patient smile she used with waiters when they explained that the kitchen had closed. "Mara, don't be possessive about a room. This is family history." "You emptied my office while I was out." "We moved things carefully." "How did you get into the house?" The question changed her face. "Not much, just enough." She set the box on Walter's desk and reached into her handbag. A green ribbon appeared between her fingers. "My ribbon, my house key." "Grant gave it to me," she said. I crossed the room and held out my hand. Evelyn's fingers closed around the ribbon. "I'm not finished." "Give me the key." This is exactly the sort of reaction he was worried about. What reaction did he expect when he gave you a key to my house so you could dismantle my office? "Your house?" she repeated softly. The front door opened. Grant called my name, then stopped when he reached the hallway and saw us facing each other. Evelyn still had the green ribbon wound around her fingers. Behind her, Walter's drawings hung where my calendar had been. Grant looked at the boxes, the desk, my empty shelves. Then he looked at me. "You weren't supposed to be home yet," he said. It was such a small sentence, almost practical. I had expected surprise, perhaps anger at his mother, perhaps the quick, bright panic of a man realizing a plan had gone wrong. Instead, I heard the truth underneath it. He already knew. I looked at him until Evelyn shifted her weight. Grant dropped his keys into the bowl by the door. "Can we talk before this turns into something?" "It already turned into something. It turned into your father's office." "It's an archive," Evelyn said, "in my workroom." "You work everywhere." Grant held up both hands. "Mom, give us a minute." She looked offended. "I'm in the middle of moving." "Then stop moving." His tone surprised all 3 of us. Evelyn's mouth tightened, but she picked up her handbag and walked toward the kitchen. "Take the key," I said. She kept walking. "Evelyn." She turned. The green ribbon was still wrapped around her fingers. Grant exhaled. "Mom, just give it to her." For one hopeful second, I thought that meant he understood. Then Evelyn laid the key on Walter's desk with the solemnity of surrendering a military decoration. "You should decide what family means before you start locking it out," she said. She left through the front door. A moment later, her car started in the driveway. I picked up the key. Grant remained in the hall, looking into the room as if it had rearranged itself without him. I was going to tell you. When? Tonight. Before or after I noticed my desk in the garage? It was supposed to be temporary. Your mother said permanent archive. She gets excited. She hung pictures. Command strips. I laughed once. It came out ugly. Grant rubbed the back of his neck. There was sawdust in his hair and a pale streak across one sleeve. He looked tired. Familiar. It made the scene worse. You weren't using the room much, he said. I was in there yesterday. You take most calls in the kitchen, because you take most calls in my office. That's what I mean. We both move around. My work doesn't evaporate because I own a laptop. I know that. Do you? He stepped into the room and touched the corner of one archive box. Mom has been struggling with Dad's things. She finally wanted to organize them. I thought this might give her a project. So you gave her my room. I thought we could share it. With a dead man's furniture? Don't say it like that. How should I say it? His jaw worked. Grief still had ways of making him 12 feet tall and 6 years old at the same time. Walter had been difficult, generous, controlling, brilliant at drawing a roofline, terrible at apologizing. Grant could spend an hour complaining about him and then defend him from a raised eyebrow. I softened my voice. You could have asked me. I knew you'd say no. The answer landed with more force because he did not raise his voice. So you didn't ask. I knew you'd react exactly like this. You mean before or after your mother entered our house without telling me? She didn't break in, Mara. I gave her a key. Yes, that is the problem. It's a spare key. It's access to our home. She's my mother, and I'm your wife. He looked toward the kitchen, perhaps checking whether Evelyn had truly left. I held up the green ribbon. Does she have another copy? No. Does she know the alarm code? He paused. Grant. It's the last 4 digits of the office number. It's not exactly state intelligence. I closed my fist around the key. He reached for me. I stepped away. I'm changing the locks. That's dramatic. I came home and found my room gone. I'll move it back. When? This weekend. No, tonight. I've been on site since 6. So have the people whose work your mother just put in the garage. Rain had blown under the garage door earlier that afternoon. I thought of fabric books, paper samples, and the presentation boards leaning against the concrete wall. Grant closed his eyes. Fine. We carried my desk in after dinner. It took us 40 minutes because he refused to remove the legs and the left corner jammed in the hallway. Normally, we would have laughed. Instead, we communicated in measurements and irritated breathing. The old green chair had a dark watermark across one side. I wiped it with a towel while Grant stacked Walter's boxes by the front door. He kept glancing at me as if waiting for a safer version of the evening to begin. At 10, he said, Mom shouldn't have moved everything. I waited. I should have talked to you first. Yes. He looked frustrated that his apology had not unlocked anything. I said, I'm sorry. You also said you avoided asking because you knew I'd say no. That was honest. It was. Isn't that what you want? I want you to understand what you were honest about. He sat on the edge of my desk. I was trying to help her. By volunteering something that belonged to me. It's one room. It's never one thing with your mother. Here we go. I stared at him. He immediately looked away. That came out wrong. No, I think it came out clean. I put the cabinet key into the new lock and turned it. The green ribbon brushed my knuckles. The locksmith arrived the next morning at 9. I gave Grant the new key after he came home, and I watched him tie it to his old ring instead of the ribbon I offered. Walter's archive went into a climate-controlled storage unit near the Mercer office. I paid for the first month because Evelyn refused to authorize a unit without inspecting 3 facilities, and the boxes could not remain in our entryway while she conducted what she called due diligence. She did not speak to me for 9 days. She spoke around me. The florist called to say Evelyn had changed the white roses to cream garden roses and doubled the number of arrangements. The stationer emailed a revised invitation with a celebration of Mercer legacy printed above our names. The lighting company wanted confirmation that we had requested a projected monogram large enough to cover the Halcyon's north wall. Each time, Evelyn told the vendor Grant had approved it. Each time, Grant said he had approved the general idea, not the specific price. Each time, I became the person who translated enthusiasm into invoices. "What if we remove the ceiling installation?" I asked the florist. "Keep the garden roses on the tables and use greenery over the bar." "That gets us close," she said. "But I need one person making decisions. Your mother-in-law threatened to bring her own flowers. She once brought her own lamp to a hotel." The florist was silent. "It had better light," I explained. "I'm putting you down as sole floral contact. Please do." Grant walked in while I was hanging up. He set 2 cups of coffee on the counter, one beside me. "Peace offering," he said. "For which conflict?" "Dealer's choice." I tasted it. He had remembered the cinnamon. He leaned against the counter. "Mom says you're cutting her out of the gala. Your mother attempted a floral coup. She thinks you're punishing her over the office. I'm stopping her from spending $12,000 on flowers. It's not 12. It was 11.8 before she added urns. He whistled under his breath. "Okay, no urns. No ceiling installation either." "Fine. Say that to her." His expression changed. "Grant." "I will." "When?" "After her contractor meeting. She's already upset about the sconces. The sconces had been removed, shipped back, reordered in aged bronze, and installed again. The restocking fee appeared on the Mercer Company card. I knew because the company card had been declined at the storage facility, and the office manager, Denise, called me. Denise had worked for Walter before Grant took over. She wore bright sneakers with business clothes and could detect an unpaid invoice the way some people smelled smoke. "Did Grant change the card limit?" she asked. "I don't have access to change it. You have access to everything." "Not everything." A pause. "Should I call him?" she asked. "Yes." "Will he answer?" "Eventually. I need the Westlake cabinet deposit today." I looked at my own invoice list. 2 Mercer clients still owed the company more than enough to cover it, but Grant had not followed up. He hated asking clients for money after charming them into spending it. "Send me the aging report," I said. "I thought Grant told you not to handle payables anymore." My fingers stopped above the keyboard. "When did he tell you that?" "Friday." Friday, Grant had brought home Thai food and asked whether I wanted to watch a movie. "What exactly did he say?" "That he and his mother were streamlining vendor communications so you could focus on the anniversary." His mother. I could picture Evelyn at Walter's old desk in the storage unit, although there was no chair in the unit and no reason for her to be involved in company payables. "Send the report to Grant," I said. "I did, yesterday." "Then it's with him." Denise lowered her voice. "Mara, the cabinet order holds the Westlake schedule. If we miss it, the installers walk to another job." I knew the installers. I knew which supplier needed a wire rather than a check, which client paid only after a friendly call, which bookkeeper at Westlake would release materials on a screenshot of confirmation. I also knew what would happen if I stepped in. The emergency would disappear. Grant would thank me. Evelyn would continue streamlining. "I can't authorize what Grant removed me from," I said. Denise went quiet again, but the silence felt different. "Understood," she said. Grant came home 40 minutes late that night and stood in the kitchen scrolling through his phone while I chopped onions. "Did Denise call you?" I asked. "About what?" "The company card." He looked up. "It's fine." It was declined. I moved some things around. "What things?" The Hawthorne draw came in. "That isn't an answer." He put his phone face down. "I'm handling it." "Good." He waited, clearly expecting more. The onion stung my eyes. I scraped it into the pan. "Did you tell Denise I'm no longer handling payables?" "I told her to come to me directly. You also put your mother in charge of vendor communication. She's helping." Evelyn doesn't know the difference between a purchase order and a packing slip. She ran Dad's office for years. She hosted client dinners. Denise ran the office. He opened the refrigerator, stared inside, and shut it again. You said you were overwhelmed. I said I didn't want to organize a 200-person anniversary party. Exactly. So I took something off your plate. Without mentioning it. You don't have to make every decision into a referendum on the marriage. I turned down the burner. Your mother enters my office, you give her my company work, and somehow the unreasonable thing is that I notice a pattern. It isn't your company work. The pan hissed between us. Grant looked as if he wanted the sentence back, but there was nowhere to put it. No, I said. It isn't. Mara, you're right. It's unpaid work I've been doing for your company. That is not what I meant. How much are you paying Evelyn? She isn't being paid. So you replaced one unpaid wife with one unpaid mother. Very streamlined. His mouth twitched, almost a smile. Mine nearly did too. That was the dangerous thing about us. Even at our worst, we still knew where the other person kept the matches. Then his phone rang. He looked at the screen. It's Westlake. Answer it. He walked into the dining room. Dinner burned while he learned the cabinet supplier had placed his order on credit hold. The overdue balance was from a previous project, not Westlake, and it was larger than I expected. Grant promised a payment by morning. When he returned, his face was pale beneath his tan. "Why didn't you tell me about the balance?" he asked. "I didn't know. You removed me from payables. That happened Friday. The report arrived today. You could have asked Denise. So could you?" He stared at the blackened onions. "If we lose the installation slot, Westlake slips 3 weeks." "I know." "The clients are moving in at the end of the month." "I know. Can you cover the balance from your consulting account until Hawthorne clears?" There it was. "Not can we? Can you?" "How much?" He told me. I set the spoon down. "No." His eyes widened. "We'd put it back in 48 hours. You said Hawthorne already came in. Most of it went to current commitments." "Which commitments?" "Payroll, Stone. Some reimbursables." "Your mother's renovations?" His silence answered. "How much of the Hawthorne draw went to her house?" "It's a company showcase. It's her front hall. Clients see it." "Do the clients sleep there?" His voice hardened. "This isn't the time. This is exactly the time." He walked to the counter and braced both hands against it. "I'm asking for help." "No, you're asking me to make your decision invisible. It's a bridge loan. Then take it to a bank. By tomorrow morning?" "You had the aging report yesterday." He turned his head sharply. "Denise told you that? She asked me to rescue you. I told her to call the person in charge." The hurt on his face was real. That almost moved me more than anger would have. "You would let my company take a hit to prove a point? I will pay the invoices I personally approved for the gala, and I will honor commitments I made to vendors. I will not cover an old company balance after you removed me from the work and spent the available money on your mother." He pushed away from the counter. "You've been waiting to punish me." "No. I've been waiting to see whether you notice what I prevent." He slept in the guest room. By noon the next day, Grant had negotiated a partial payment. Westlake released the cabinets but canceled the custom hardware package, and the installers charged a rescheduling fee. The project did not collapse. It became late, awkward, and more expensive, the ordinary shape of a mistake no one quietly erased. Denise stopped copying me on company invoices. Evelyn began copying Grant on every gala email, even those addressed to me. She wrote in complete, gracious sentences that made each demand sound like a correction to my instability. We should avoid overwhelming Mara with last-minute decisions. Grant and I agree that family photographs belong near the main entrance. Given recent sensitivities, please obtain confirmation from both of us. Lena replied only once. Per contract, all final authorization remains with Mara Mercer as designated host. I printed that email and tucked it into the green event binder. 3 days later, I came home to find the alarm disarmed. Nothing had been moved. My office door was closed. The green chair sat exactly where I had left it. On the dining table, however, our framed wedding photograph was gone. I called Grant. "Did you take the wedding picture?" "No." "Did your mother?" A pause then. "She needed it for the display." "How did she get in?" "She didn't take anything private." That wasn't my question. "It's one photograph, Mara." The alarm was off. I gave her the new code in case of an emergency. I sat down at the dining table. The magazine that had protected the wood from the frame was still there, holding the clean rectangular outline of something removed. "You changed the code after I told you not to," he continued, as if I had created the inconvenience. "I changed the locks because she entered our house without permission. She had permission, mine." The sentence was quieter this time, more deliberate. I looked at the empty place on the table and understood that the first key had not been a mistake he regretted. It was a decision he believed he had the right to keep making. "When she's finished with the photograph," I said, "tell her to keep the frame." Then I opened the alarm app and removed his ability to create guest codes. Grant discovered the change before he came home. He called from his truck. "You locked me out of the alarm settings." I removed guest code access. "From my account. You can still enter the house." "That isn't the point." "No, the point is that you created a code for someone I specifically said could not enter without asking." "My mother isn't someone," I noticed. He arrived carrying the wedding photograph under one arm. He placed it on the dining table, but the magazine was gone, so the corner of the frame struck the wood with a sharp little knock. "There," he said. "Crisis over." I turned the frame around. A white scrap showed beneath the cardboard backing. I opened the tabs and pulled out a folded page covered in my handwriting. For a second, I could not place it. Then I read the first line. "Grant, you are the only person I've ever met who can burn toast and still argue with the smoke detector. My wedding vows." I had written them on hotel stationery the night before our ceremony and hidden them behind the photograph after we came home from our honeymoon. The joke about the smoke detector had made Grant laugh so hard at the altar that Walter told him to get control of himself. "Why is this out?" I asked. Grant's face changed. "Mom found it." Inside the frame. She was fixing the backing. There was nothing wrong with the backing. She thought it would be meaningful. For what? He took off his jacket and draped it over a chair. "She's planned a short vow renewal." I waited for the sentence to become less insane. "At the gala," he added, "with my private vows. She thought we could surprise you." That is a very unusual definition of surprise. She was going to have them printed in the program. I unfolded the page completely. There were smudges near the bottom from where I had rewritten the final lines while eating room service fries. Grant had once known every word by heart. "Did you agree to this?" I said it might be nice. "Did you tell her where the vows were?" "No, I forgot they were in there." "But when she found them, you said yes." "It's our anniversary, Mara." "That doesn't make my desk drawers and picture frames public archives." His eyes moved to the page. "They're my vows, too." "No, yours began with the story about the flat tire. These are mine." "You said them to me." "I did. That still doesn't make them your mother's centerpiece." He sat across from me. For the first time in days, he looked more tired than angry. "I don't know how to get this right with both of you. You keep saying both as if your mother and your wife have equal claims inside this marriage. She's trying to celebrate us. She's trying to stage us. You see everything she does as an attack. Because she entered our house twice after I told her not to. She used a code I gave her." "Yes, Grant. You keep providing the weapon and then correcting my description of the wound." He flinched. I folded the vows along their old creases and stood. "What are you doing?" "Putting these somewhere neither of you can borrow them." "I wouldn't. You already did." I locked the page in my office cabinet. The green ribbon hung from the key while I turned it, bright against the gray metal. The next morning, Evelyn sent me the gala program for final approval. The vow renewal was listed as a recommitment to legacy. I deleted it. Below it was a 7-minute presentation titled, "The Next Chapter of Mercer Custom Homes." I called Denise. "Do you know what the next chapter is?" "If Grant has written one, he hasn't sent it to the office." Evelyn put a company presentation in the anniversary program. Denise sighed. "She asked me for staff photographs." "What did you send?" "A link to the website." "Thank you. I'm learning." There was something almost apologetic in her voice. "Did Grant tell you what he plans to announce?" "He asked whether I thought you'd want Walter's old title." I sat straighter. "Which title?" "Director of Operations." "I'm not joining the company." I told him that. "What did he say?" "That you already work there." The line went silent between us. Denise spoke carefully. "For what it's worth, I said doing a job and being given a job are not the same thing." "Thank you. I should have said it years ago." After we hung up, I called the audiovisual company and requested the presentation file. They sent a glossy 7-minute tribute to the Mercer legacy. Walter's pencil sketches dissolved into photographs of finished houses. Grant's voice played over slow piano music, talking about craftsmanship and permanence. At the end, my photograph appeared beside the words, "Mara Mercer, Director of Operations." Grant's recorded voice said, "The person who has always held everything together is finally making it official." He made it sound like love. For one reckless minute, I wanted to let the video play so I could refuse him in front of everyone. Instead, I removed the final slide and voiceover. I preserved the company photographs because the audiovisual team had already built the file, and the gala sponsorship was supposed to pay for a portion of the event. The company could receive the recognition it actually purchased. I emailed Grant and Evelyn the revised program. Evelyn called within 30 seconds. "You've gutted it." I removed the private vows and an employment announcement I did not approve. "You're already doing the work." "Not anymore. Mara, that business supports your household. My consulting work has been supporting the business. Grant told me about the cabinet incident. Did he tell you where the available cash went?" "He invested in a property that clients see." "He paid for your sconces." "My house has been part of the Mercer portfolio since Walter renovated it. Then the company can invoice you." Her silence was icy. "You've become obsessed with invoices," she said. "I've become interested in who receives them. We are trying to welcome you into the family's future. I've been in the family for 15 years. Then perhaps you could act like it." She hung up. Grant did not mention the revised program until that evening. He took off his shoes at the door, lined them neatly against the baseboard, and asked whether I had eaten. "I made pasta. I'm not hungry." He nodded. "Mom's upset." "Your mother's natural condition." He almost smiled. It vanished quickly. "The operations announcement was my idea." "I know. I was trying to recognize you. By assigning me a job, with a salary. How much?" He rubbed his thumb over a scratch in the dining table. "We hadn't finalized that." "Ownership? Mara? Benefits?" "We're not a huge corporation. Defined hours? You know the work isn't 9 to 5. So the same work with a title you announce before negotiating anything. I thought you'd be happy. You thought I'd be trapped into looking happy." His expression hardened. "Not everything is a trap. Then why didn't you ask me privately?" "Because privately, lately, all you do is say no." The answer hung there. I looked at the man who had once loved my decisiveness because it saved him from his own. Now that my decisions inconvenienced him, he called them rejection. He stood. "The event is in 4 days. Can we just get through it?" "Get through our anniversary." I nodded. 4 days. Relief moved across his face too fast. The company's sponsorship did not arrive. Lena called while I was checking the final seating chart. "Accounting has the Mercer portion marked outstanding," she said. "It was supposed to clear last month." "I know. Grant told our office it had been paid through a separate invoice, but we don't have one." I opened the event ledger. The unpaid amount matched nearly every company-branded addition Evelyn had requested: the client tables, the wall projection, the upgraded bar, and the architectural display. Can you remove those costs? Not without canceling services and losing deposits. At this point, you're personally responsible under the agreement. Of course I was. My signature sat on the last page in blue ink, placed there after Grant failed to answer his phone. How long do I have? Final settlement is due the morning of the event. I called Grant 3 times. On the 4th, he answered. I'm with a client. The Halcyon hasn't received the sponsorship. I'm moving money tomorrow. From where? The Hawthorne balance. That was supposed to cover Westlake. Westlake is handled. With fees. I said I'm handling it. Lena says you told accounting the payment was already sent. I thought Denise had processed it. Denise doesn't process anything without money. The client said something in the background. Grant lowered his voice. Pay it from the household account. I'll replace it. There isn't enough in the household account. There should be. I opened the banking app. The numbers were lower than they had been 2 weeks earlier. Several transfers had gone to the Mercer operating account, all authorized by Grant. They were within his rights as a joint account holder. That did not make them less revealing. You already used it, I said. Silence. Payroll was short. You didn't tell me. I'm telling you now. No, I found it now. I cannot do this while a client is standing here. You won't have to. I ended the call. My consulting account could cover the Halcyon balance. Doing so would leave me less room than I liked, especially if I needed to move out or carry the house alone for a while. Canceling would cost nearly as much and strand dozens of vendors who had done nothing but believe my signature. I paid the contracted balance. Then I opened a new bank account in my name and redirected my consulting deposits. Grant noticed that risk. He became tender. He brought home peonies from the grocery store because they had been in my wedding bouquet. He made coffee before I woke and left it in the green mug by my laptop. He apologized for the account transfers without admitting he should have asked. In bed, he rested his hand on my waist with the careful patience of someone waiting for a frightened animal to stop watching him. I miss you, he said. I missed him too. That was the real setback. If I had stopped loving him, every decision would have become lighter. The morning of the gala, he kissed my temple before leaving for the Halcyon. Come by the main lobby at 6, he said. The photographer wants the 3 of us before guests arrive. The 3 of us, you, me, and Mom, on our anniversary, please. I spent the day checking table counts, locating a missing wine delivery, and preventing Evelyn from replacing the seating cards because she disliked the typeface. By 5:45, guests were already arriving. I changed into my dark green dress in the venue office. Lena fastened the laminated host badge around my neck, the ribbon lying against my collarbone. That color means business, she said. It used to mean home. She glanced at me in the mirror, but did not ask. I walked around to the main entrance. Grant saw me through the glass and came outside before I reached the doors. Evelyn stood inside beside the framed guest list in her silver gown. Someone had placed her name above mine. Grant blocked the handle. He told me the photographer was set. He told me he and his mother were about to enter. Then he pointed toward the service drive and asked me, in the voice he used when he wanted cruelty to sound practical, not to embarrass him. Lena checked the badge. The host walked in. This time, when I passed Grant, I did not wonder why he needed me to disappear. I knew. He wanted the work I did, the money I covered, the rooms I surrendered, and the doors I opened. He simply did not want anyone to see that they belonged to me. Inside the lobby, Lena kept one hand lightly beneath my elbow until the glass doors closed behind us. "Do you want security involved?" she asked. "No. Do you want him removed?" I looked back. Grant stood outside with his mother now, explaining something to the photographer. Evelyn's smile had gone rigid. "It's his anniversary too," I said. Lena followed my gaze. That wasn't what I asked. "No, don't remove him." I walked toward the coat check. The framed guest list placed Evelyn first, Grant second, and me beneath a heading that read, Event Coordination. My name had been printed in smaller type. Who approved this? I asked. Lena examined it. Not me. Evelyn had left her leather portfolio on the table behind the frame. Inside were copies of the program I had rejected, including the vow renewal and Grant's announcement that I was joining the company. I closed the portfolio. Please collect every copy of this program, I said. Use the version I approved. Lena signaled to 2 staff members. Anything else? No scheduled changes from Grant or Evelyn. Anything they ask for comes through me. It already does. Then why do I feel like I need to apologize? Because you've spent 6 weeks talking to people who benefit when you do. I looked at her. She straightened the edge of my badge. Occupational observation. The main doors opened behind us. Grant and Evelyn entered together while the photographer walked backward taking pictures. Evelyn placed a hand on Grant's arm. He looked toward me, but the camera flashed before our eyes met. Guests turned. A few raised glasses. I stepped aside and let them pass. For the next hour, I did what I'd always done. I fixed things. A server dropped a tray near the east terrace, and I found towels before anyone slipped. The cabinet company delegation had somehow been seated at separate tables, so I shifted place cards until they could travel as the group Evelyn had promised. I found a dairy-free entree for a guest whose response card Grant had lost in his truck. Each problem yielded to a phone call, a name remembered, or a quiet change made before it became visible. Grant moved through the room accepting congratulations. Evelyn showed guests Walter's drawings as if she had personally designed the houses. She'd added the wedding photograph to the display. The backing was closed, but one metal tab bent outward where she had opened it. I pressed it flat with my thumb. Beautiful picture, a woman beside me said. It was a good day. You haven't changed. That's kind of you. No, really. Same green. I looked at the ribbon around my neck. In the photograph, a narrow strip of green silk circled my waist. I suppose I'm consistent. Across the room, Grant was watching me. For a second, he looked like the man in the photograph, nervous, hopeful, unable to believe I had chosen him. Then Evelyn touched his shoulder and pointed him toward another client. At 7:30, Lena found me near the service corridor. Your husband wants the original presentation restored. No. He said you'd reconsidered. I haven't. I didn't think so. She handed me a flash drive. His mother gave this to the technician. I plugged it into the laptop at the production desk. The first file was the original company presentation. The second was labeled VOWS_final. It contained photographs of the page from behind our wedding picture. My handwriting filled the screen, every joke and promise enlarged for 200 people. She photographed it, I said. Lena's mouth tightened. Do you want me to delete the file? No, give me the drive. I slipped it into the zippered pocket inside my dress. Grant appeared at the corridor entrance. Can we have a minute? Lena looked at me. I nodded, and she walked toward the ballroom. Grant waited until she was out of sight. You're making this difficult. I found the vows file. His face reddened. Mom sent it before you said no. I said no when I found the paper. She's trying to give us a moment. She's trying to display something intimate because she thinks intimacy is a thing she can arrange between centerpieces. Keep your voice down. Why? Am I embarrassing you again? He glanced toward the ballroom. Music and conversation washed through the open doors. I'm sorry about outside, he said. You told me to enter through the loading dock. The photographer had a plan. Your mother had a plan. I was trying to prevent a scene. You stood in front of a glass door where 200 people could see you. Most of them weren't looking. I was. That stopped him. He shoved his hands into his pockets. What do you want from me tonight? It was almost the right question. In 10 minutes, you're scheduled to give the welcome. Walk onto that stage with me. Tell them I hosted this event and covered the company's sponsorship when it didn't arrive. His head jerked back. You want me to discuss our finances? I want you to acknowledge reality, not in front of clients. Then acknowledge it without numbers. Afterward, tell your mother that taking the vows and entering our house crossed a line. Tell her she no longer has access. Can we do that tomorrow? No, this is an anniversary gala, not a hostage negotiation. You already made your choice private. I'm giving you a chance to make a different one where it costs you something. His eyes narrowed. And if I don't? The evening continues exactly as contracted. That sounds like a threat. It's information. Evelyn appeared behind him. They're ready for us. She had changed into the expression from the wedding photograph, tender and composed. For an instant, I saw what she wanted, not merely attention, but restoration. Walter gone, the business wobbling, Grant drifting beyond her reach. She wanted a room full of people to confirm that the Mercer family remained solid. I could almost pity her. Then I remembered my office stripped bare. "Grant," I said. He looked between us. Evelyn touched his sleeve. "Everyone's waiting." He went with her. I did not follow. From the production desk, I watched them take the stage beneath the projected Mercer monogram. Evelyn smiled into the lights. Grant adjusted the microphone and thanked everyone for coming to celebrate 15 years of marriage, family, and shared work. He said my name once. Then he began talking about Walter. I nodded to the technician. The corrected presentation replaced the monogram. Walter's sketches appeared, followed by photographs of Mercer houses and the names of the architects, builders, installers, and suppliers who had actually worked on them. Denise had sent me the credits. The final slide read, "Mercer Custom Home 7 Sponsorship Commitment, $28,400. Payment status, outstanding, Yevent contract, vendor guarantees, and balance paid by Mara Mercer." Consulting conversation thinned around the room. Grant turned to look at the screen. Evelyn strode toward the production desk with surprising speed. "Stop this," she said. The technician looked at Lena. Lena looked at me. "Let it finish." "It is finished," Evelyn snapped. "Everyone has seen it." "Then stopping it won't help. You're humiliating your husband." I kept my voice low. "He sent me to the service entrance of the party I paid for." That was a misunderstanding. He used complete sentences. Grant stepped off the stage and joined us. "Take it down." "The presentation has ended," Lena said. "The next scheduled item is dinner service." He stared at her badge, then mine. "Can everyone stop acting like a piece of plastic makes her queen?" "No," I said. "It makes me responsible." The distinction seemed to strike him harder than the slide. I walked to the microphone before Evelyn could. My heels sounded too loud on the stage. "Thank you for coming," I said. "The staff at the Halcyon and every vendor credited tonight built a beautiful evening. Dinner is ready, the bar is open, and I hope you enjoy both." That was all. I returned the microphone and walked off the stage. There was no vow renewal, no announcement about my future. The gala continued because waiters carried plates. The quartet played, and adults with expensive drinks generally preferred dinner to other people's marital tension. I settled the staff gratuities with Lena, removed my vows from the flash drive, and put the drive in Evelyn's portfolio. Grant found me near the coat check. "You can't leave." "The vendors are paid. Lena has authority for the rest of the evening." What am I supposed to tell people? The truth has been available all night. I took our wedding photograph from the display, removed the folded vows, and handed him the empty frame. "Your mother wanted this." Then I left through the main doors. Grant came home after 2 a.m. I heard him stand outside my locked office before he went to the guest room. At 9, I put a folder on the dining table. He entered in yesterday's shirt, carrying a glass of water. "What's that?" My resignation from any unpaid work for Mercer Custom Homes. Notice that my consulting income is now separate, a list of household bills and the portion each of us owes, revocation of permission for your mother to enter the house. He sat slowly. The final page gave him 2 choices. We could attend counseling, disclose all company and household debts, agree that access to our home required 2 yeses, and establish boundaries with Evelyn. Or we could separate and prepare the house for sale. You drafted this last night? I drafted most of it before the gala. So last night was a test. No, last night was an answer. He rubbed both hands over his face. You're ending 15 years over a door. I looked at him across the table Walter's photograph had occupied. The marriage didn't break because you blocked a door. You blocked the door because of what our marriage had become. He chose counseling at first. We sat in a quiet office every Thursday while Grant explained that his family had always shared keys, money, space, and work. He said asking permission felt cold. He admitted giving Evelyn the alarm code, but he described the problem as my reaction to it. When the counselor asked what he would do differently, Grant said, "I'd prepare Mara better." Not ask, prepare. Evelyn refused to return the second copy of the new key until the locksmith confirmed it no longer worked. She called my written boundaries corporate policy and stopped speaking to Grant whenever he enforced one. He lasted 11 days before meeting her privately and paying another contractor invoice from the Mercer account. I stopped attending counseling alone. Without my labor and cash, the company became what it had always been underneath me: viable, respected, and badly managed. Grant hired a part-time bookkeeper. She charged for every hour. Projects ran late. Clients questioned fees. The canceled Westlake hardware became a discount Grant had to give the homeowners. Denise asked for a raise and the authority to reject expenses that were not tied to paying projects. Grant accused her of taking my side. "I'm taking the ledger's side," she told him. She resigned a month later and began doing bookkeeping for my consulting business. Grant asked me twice to come back temporarily. The second time, he brought coffee with cinnamon. I drank it while telling him no. He could not afford to buy out my half of the house without using company assets the bank would not accept as stable. I could have carried the mortgage alone, but staying would have meant living inside every argument. We listed it. Evelyn blamed me for forcing the sale of a Mercer home. Grant did not correct her. That was when I stopped waiting for him to. On the day we accepted an offer, he stood in my empty workroom. The water stain still darkened one side of the green chair. "Was one bad night really worth this?" he asked. "It wasn't one night. You made sure everyone saw the sponsorship. You promised money in the company's name, spent it elsewhere, and expected me to hide that. You could have told me privately. I did, for years." He looked toward the front door. "I never wanted you gone. No, you wanted me available." His face crumpled then, just slightly. I loved him enough to feel it. I left anyway. My new place was smaller, with pale floors and one front door. Denise helped me carry in the green chair and complained about my books until I ordered pizza. Months later, before I left for a 3-week job in Seattle, she came by to collect the spare key. I had tied it to a fresh strip cut from the old green spool. She held out her hand. I hesitated. Denise waited. "If you lose it," I said, "I'm charging you a restocking fee." "Fair." I gave her the key. Then I stepped inside and closed my own front door without asking anyone's permission.